What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel. And well, I've let it go a couple of days since Sunday's disappointment, finding out we weren't going to be Premier League champions. Would have been a glorious anniversary of the Invincibles, a 20-year anniversary. And now, of course, it will be at least 21 years since we last won the league. And of course, that's too long. And the first thing I want to say straight out of the gate is a massive well done to Manchester City. They were quite simply, over 38 games, the team that has the most points at the end of it is without question the best team. It's one of the things I love about the Premier League. It's not a cup competition. It's a total marathon. And there is no question over who is the rightful winner. If you finish with the most points, that's it. And of course, the disappointment for us is just how close we came. And I want to make this point because I know that people now are looking back on our defeat against Aston Villa and saying that's where we lost it. And of course, if we hadn't lost the game to Villa, if we'd won it instead, then we would be Premier League champions now. It's also true if we hadn't lost that ridiculous home game against West Ham where we had 31 chances and they had 2 and they still beat us 2-0. Or the game that followed it against Fulham where we just looked tired and not up for it anymore. But after that dismal Fulham defeat, if you'd said to me, for the rest of the season, we're going to play 18, win 16, draw 1, away to the treble winners, and lose only 1 game, I would have bitten your hand off, and I would have assumed that would be enough. But the reality is that in the calendar year of 2024, Manchester City have played 21, won 18, and drawn 3. When they absolutely needed to, they won 9 in a row after the draw with us. And that's the scale of what we're up against. But we can't be ashamed that we didn't win the league. We were the only team that ran them close. And how close was it? Well, it's worth putting this into context because people are talking about the Fulham game, the West Ham game, and of course the Aston Villa game. But the reality is this. On the third game of the season, after narrowly beating Nottingham Forest, perhaps unconvincingly at home, and holding on to a 1-0 victory away to Crystal Palace, despite having Tomiyasu sent off in what is one of the most ridiculous sendings off I've ever seen. The home game against Fulham, where we started almost as a flashback to last season, conceding a goal in the first minute, but managed to peg it back to 2-1. And in the 87th minute, Fulham get a corner. Remember, Gabriel's not playing. And I remember discussing this at the time. When the corner comes in and Pereira takes his shot and it goes through the bodies into the bottom left-hand corner and they equalise. What if Gabriel had been playing? What if he blocked it? What if anyone had blocked it? Or what if that ball had hit the post? The reality as we sit here today, second best to a Manchester City team who have now completed a historic 4 in a row, who have proven themselves to be the best team, not just the Premier League has ever seen, but English football has ever seen. But if that goal hadn't gone in, if we'd held on to the 2-1 victory over Fulham, we would be champions now. So this entire season, this 38 games came down to that one goal in the third game. Or if you're being a little bit less charitable, you could say that if Jorginho doesn't give the ball away against Spurs and we hold on for a 2-1 win there. But I'm not really in the mood to be uncharitable. And so I want to say a massive well done to Manchester City because you are without question the best team this season. And it's worth remembering that they've managed to achieve this without Kevin De Bruyne for a large spell. Erling Haaland, last season's phenom, goal-scoring machine, didn't start in 9 games and still managed to be the league's top goal scorer. In the summer transfer window, saw them lose their captain, Riyad Mahrez, as well as Emerick Laporte. And they brought in players who initially didn't look like they were good replacements. Kovacic, Gvardiol, and Doku. And I don't think we've seen the best of Doku yet, or Kovacic. But Gvardiol, at the end of the season, is playing like a monster. The other thing that I want to just address really quickly is that, of course, it's hard to not win. And elements of our fan base and other fans have said that in a season of asterisks, where Everton and Nottingham Forest completed a league season with the asterisks to say that, they had points deducted, shouldn't Manchester City, with their 115 charges, also have points deducted. Well, my view on this has been very controversial, because I don't really see a straight line between the 115 charges and why Manchester City were able to just sweep all before them. Jurgen Klopp, when he was leaving, in his leaving speech, said that even any other manager given this squad of players would not have won 4 in a row. I think there's something to be said for that. I think I can agree with that. Do I think that Manchester City were able to buy players they probably shouldn't have been able to buy 5, 6, 7 years ago because they were outspending their income? They did some dodgy deals to inflate their commercials? Possibly. But is that why they are where they are? They haven't spent more money than Chelsea. They haven't spent more money than Manchester United, but they have brought in great coaches and the world's best manager. And at the start of the season, I was convinced Man City would not be able to find the hunger to complete 4 in a row. That they lost too many key players, that Guardiola didn't look up for it after the treble. And yet, at the work rate that he puts in, and somehow getting those players, finding new resources, it is a hell of an achievement. And if you want to say that the 115 charges make some cheats, we'll find out in due course. We'll find out whether they're guilty. We'll find out what the punishment will be. But even if the punishment is that they're stripped of their titles, we're not going to celebrate, because I think that we can all see that this Manchester City team did it on the pitch. And to the charges that they face, as well as the accusations that they've made football boring. Yes, they are boring. They're boring and predictable. Going into the last game was just an example of that. You think, is there any chance West Ham can do it? And then they score in the second minute. It's the same at Wolves. The other thing that might be worth talking about, if we're looking for reasons to say that they didn't deserve to win the Premier League, is the VAR decisions. This has been a catastrophic year for VAR. My last video was on about whether VAR should be abolished. I personally don't think so. I think it's madness to blame the tools. But this was an interesting list placed in the comments by the Zanzibarian, and I thank you for this, because I found it really interesting reading. I mentioned that I had a gut feel that Manchester City didn't seem to be facing as many difficult VAR decisions as other teams. But he's provided, and it's on the comments of the VAR video, and it's essentially a VAR net score. So it calculates the points tally that it calculates the points difference that VAR has made to each team, and at the top of it, Fulham have +5. So the VAR decisions that they've had have led to a 5-point advantage. And at the bottom of the list, it may surprise no one to see this, but it was Wolverhampton Wanderers. It is, of course, the team that has now petitioned to make it to take this VAR to a vote amongst the 20 Premier League clubs. But what's really fascinating is that you have Aston Villa +4, Nottingham Forest +4, Everton +4, and Manchester City +3. Liverpool -1 and Arsenal -1. Of the top 6 clubs, Man City are the only net positive. So is there a conspiracy? Is there some way that you could look at this and say, oh, they get all the decisions? Certainly Doku's foul on McAllister in the area late on in the Liverpool game should have been a penalty. I think we can all say that, and wasn't. But it reminds me a lot, and I've said this before, of the Alex Ferguson era, where everybody was very quick to point at officiating and refereeing, talking about things like Fergie time, the number of penalties that Man United got at home. And I think largely that's been lost now. It's been forgotten about. And I think this VAR discussion may rumble on. We are likely to see changes, fundamental changes to VAR. But I don't think anyone's going to remember Man City won the league because of good and positive VAR decisions. Maybe they rode their luck a little bit, and maybe we weren't able to ride ours. But I don't think the 115 charges, I don't think VAR is how you explain this Manchester City team. So the next thing that we have to look at is, how is it possible that we have done as well as we've done this season, and yet we're still apparently expected to be tearful and cry? And I've been really pleased with the response of Arsenal fans generally. Those in the stadium on Sunday when Arteta gave his speech telling us that we shouldn't be satisfied gave you the feeling that this team knows where it's going and knows what it's going to achieve. And largely, the Arsenal fans have been I've been really proud of the Arsenal fan. I've been really proud of Arsenal fans who've talked about pride in their team. After all, look, if you're a parent and your child goes off and does the very best they can, but comes second to somebody who's much better, what can you do? You have to praise what they did. You can spend a lot of your time going on about, we should never have lost to Villa. We should never have lost a game. The standards to win the Premier League are getting to the point now where you do just have to win every game. I think that if you look at what we've achieved relative to other Arsenal teams, if you look at our points tally relative to other teams that have won the Premier League, it is worth noting that the average number of points it takes to win a Premier League is 87. We finished on 89. This has been a fantastic season, and one where we've had a few of our own injury problems, and we've learned some lessons, I hope. And I do believe we're there for the long run. I think we'll still be challenging next season. We're not going to fall away like Manchester United and Newcastle did this season. But this Manchester City team have pushed us, and Arteta, again, to give him credit, said that they're pushing the best results out of us. And I think that fills me with confidence and optimism. But for those fans who want to say, oh, he's had long enough now, when Alex Ferguson was in his fourth year, a United fan held up a banner saying it's time to go, Fergie. Sometimes you give up just before you reach the magic. Of course, I want us to win the Premier League next season. And it looks like Pep Guardiola will be Manchester City manager for next season. And who knows, they might go out and sign another couple of world-class players. They might be even more difficult to beat next season. But what if after that? Because the other hope that we have as Arsenal fans, and I don't know if I like this, but if you're clutching at straws that they might have their title stripped of them because of the 115 charges, or someone might investigate VAR and find it was suspicious, I think the reality is our best chance of winning the Premier League will come when Pep stands down. And he has a contract till 2025 and has been really open about it. He doesn't know what his motivation for next season is going to be. Can they do a historic 5 in a row? Well, they've done the 4 in a row, and I don't think anyone's going to emulate that it's happened once in 130 years, so it's not likely to be repeated quickly. It's going to take us at least 5 years to do it, even if we win next season. And Arsenal have never won a back-to-back Premier League, so you just have to take your hat off to Manchester City. But there is a feeling. David Ornstein has reported that sources close to him working at Manchester City feel that it's about 90% that Pep Guardiola will leave in 2025 when his contract is up. He's already been at Manchester City so much longer than anywhere else. I mean, he has been at Manchester City longer than Bayern and Barcelona combined. And we saw Jurgen Klopp retire. Pep Guardiola is the hardest working man in football, I would say, and this must be taking a toll on him. I'd love him to be England manager. If Gareth Southgate doesn't win us the Euros, and let me know in the comments how you feel about that. Ultimately, this has been a season where we have failed to win silverware. And it seems like a lot of people are only able to measure success by silverware. And it's the surprising people. It's not Liverpool fans and Manchester United fans. It's the Chelsea fans and the Tottenham fans. And I do want to talk a little bit about Tottenham fans, because how Spursy can you get? Tottenham fans want to laugh at us. Laugh at us when we finished 23 points ahead of Tottenham. We beat Tottenham by 8 games. We could have finished playing 2 months ago and they still wouldn't have caught us. The level of copium amongst Tottenham fans, talking about how they were instrumental in stopping us win the league. They gave Manchester City 4 points. They gave us 4 points. Manchester City didn't need Tottenham fans' help to beat Tottenham. And there's a couple of things I want to say on this. First is that Tottenham fans are really quick to tell us that we would have done the same in their position. That we would have put on Manchester City shirts. There's a clip doing the rounds where somebody asked the AFTV guys in the run-up to the Europa League against Chelsea, would we lose Europa League if it meant that Tottenham could lose the Champions League? And they all said yes. Now, I find that strange, to be honest. I wanted to win the Europa League, and I don't remember thinking, I would happily sacrifice this to stop Tottenham winning the Champions League. Although I desperately didn't want to see Tottenham win the only trophy that's eluded us. Of course not. But there is a difference here. There is a massive difference in theoretically saying, yeah, well, I would happily see us lose the Europa League if Tottenham lose the Champions League. But it's not an actual deal you can do. You can't actually say, oh, look, we've lost our game. And certainly I don't remember anyone on the night joyously celebrating that we'd lost because now it meant Tottenham would lose. Or wearing a Liverpool shirt for the Tottenham game. I've never worn a shirt of any other club. I think that Spurs fans who want to tell Ange Postecoglou that he doesn't understand rivalry when the guy's just come down from Glasgow managing Celtic against Rangers. Spurs fans say, lots of fans would do this, but I want you, this is a question I have for you in the comments, please let me know. Can you think of any other time that you can remember a home team doing the Poznan or cheering and dancing when their team conceded, even though it meant they were definitely not going to qualify for the Champions League, just because it meant their closest rival weren't going to win? Can you remember any other fans or supporters wearing the shirt of the opposition they're playing? This is a uniquely Spursy thing, and most fans don't understand it. They want to tell you that this is something all fans would do, but we know different because we played Manchester United days before, and none of their fans want to see Manchester City beat their 3 in a row any more than they wanted to see them repeat the treble. They would have dearly loved their team to lose to us, if you believe Spurs fans. And yet on the day, none of them were doing the Poznan, none of them were wearing Arsenal shirts, none of them cheered. They stayed in the rain. They behaved like real fans. Liverpool fans famously in 95. In fact, I cannot think of a single time where fans have done this. Chelsea fans laughing at Arsenal because we threw away the title again. Look where you are, Chelsea. You're a clown club at the moment. You and Tottenham fans want to look at us as though we should be miserable. A Tottenham fan wrote in the comment section under one of my videos, we've had the same season as you. And I said, yeah, you have. You've had the same season as us, except we've won a lot more games. So we've had more to celebrate, although it never occurred to me to celebrate defeat. So based on that, actually, yeah, you might have had a better season than us. You want to talk about us bottling by coming second, by one goal being the difference between us winning and not winning the Premier League? Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how you thought you might win the league in October and then decided that you would settle for top 4 and then agreed that you could be happy with top 5. I heard so many Tottenham fans saying we don't want to be in the Champions League because we have no chance of winning it. By the same metric, what are you doing in the Premier League? This idea that you shouldn't enter a competition because you've got no chance of winning it, when your crest says to dare is to do. I know that a lot of these Chelsea and Tottenham fans have been talking about tears and crying, and I watched that game on Sunday and saw no tears. Apart from, and I have to say, Kai Havertz broke my heart a little bit at the end. It's clear how much it's meant to him. It's clear how important it's become to him to join a family, to really feel part of something, and how we've gotten the best out of him. And you do look back on a season where we've tried to integrate him into an 8 that didn't quite work, and then found his best form as a false 9. His work rate, his goal scoring, everything about him. He's been a real high point of the season, along with Declan Rice being just as good, if not better, than we all expected. And that cameo from Timber at the very last game of the season to go with the small amount we saw him in the first game of the season gives us hope for next year, doesn't it? I also thought, by the way, that Martinelli looked fantastic on the right. One of his better performances, of course not quite the end product, but judged on just the performance, I think it gives us an idea as to why there isn't this rush to buy a Saka understudy. Although Michael Elise is constantly linked with us, and I'm not saying I wouldn't like to sign Michael Elise, but I think we're well equipped. I'm going to do a video. The next video I do, of course, will be about players out, players in. There's much to say on that. But to sum up, to round up this video, because I know it's been going on a little while, I want to say I'm incredibly grateful for the season we had, and so much that I was able to celebrate. Battering Chelsea 5-0, beating Tottenham at the Lane, beating Tottenham at their stadium. The win over Manchester City, not only in the league but in the Community Shield. hard-fought draw that they weren't able to beat us. They played 21, they beat 18, but they couldn't beat us all season. 3 times we played them. The glorious win over Liverpool. So many games, the 5s and 6s away, watching West Ham fans file out, watching Sheffield United fans leave early, Burnley fans, clearing stadiums like a fire drill. The fans, the support of Arsenal fans, listening to the beautiful sound of Arsenal fans filling the Emirates. I think as fans we're a little bit nervy, and that might play against the team at home. Our away performance for a while were much better than our home performances. Maybe there's something in there. But overall, if they want to call us, if they want to say that we should be ashamed because we lost the Premier League by 2 points to the greatest team that English football's ever seen, go for it. If that's how you cope with the disaster that your own club had, and again, it is mostly just Chelsea and Tottenham fans. Villa fans aren't saying anything like this. Villa fans aren't pointing the finger and laughing. Newcastle fans aren't. Manchester City fans aren't. So we move on. We take our defeats, we take our disappointments, and we dust ourselves off. We give ourselves some time off, and we come back and we sing our hearts out once again, season 24-25. And we believe all over again that it's going to be our season, because there's no reason not to. We've got the Euros to look forward to and the Olympics. There's a summer of sport. And of course, I'm going to be posting regularly now that the season is over on transfers. So please join me in that. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe. And of course, every like is incredibly important. So don't be me. Don't be stingy when it comes to clicking the like button. Thank you so much for your support up to this point. We have so much more of a journey to go on together before we lift that important silverware. And I want you along for the journey. And your comments and likes are fuel for this channel. So please keep them coming. And until I see you again, be lucky. Lots of love.